Sleepwalkers is a 1992 supernatural horror film. It's based on a screenplay written by Stephen King. Now, this is the first time Stephen King wrote a screenplay specifically for a film that wasn't based on one of his books or one of his short stories. The film was directed by Mick Garris, and we're going to take a look at this collector's edition Scream Factory Blu-ray release. This came out in 2018, and as of now, there isn't a 4K version of this film available, and there hasn't been one announced. If you could do me a favor and go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel, hit that bell thing, you know, the bell, yeah. Anyway, I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. I first saw I first saw Sleepwalkers. I probably rented it when it came out on DVD, and I remember seeing it. It often came on, I think it was HBO. It came on HBO a lot, and of course I was a big Stephen King fan. I still am to a certain degree, but I was a really big Stephen King fan when this came out, and I had read most of his books. I remember there is one particular aspect of it I'm not going to get into quite yet, but we'll talk about it later. I think that for most people, this is probably the big turnoff from this film. Sleepwalkers is a pretty impressive creature feature when it comes down to it, and I think it is a lot of fun. The film stars Mae-Chin Mick, who played Shelley Johnson in Twin Peaks, which I'm a huge fan of. But Shelley Johnson also, the character Shelley Johnson is also in the Fire Walk with Me film, and she even came back for the third season, The Return. But I really like Mae-Chin Mick, and she's pretty good in this film. Even she's playing like the kind of goody two-shoes character, the protagonist. But she doesn't get top billing. Brian Krause, who plays one of the two Sleepwalkers, gets the top billing, which I know from probably this more than anything. But he also played a major character on the show Charmed. He was a white lighter, he's kind of an angel character. He was a pretty important character on the show and also main cast. And Alice Krige, who plays his mother, was famous for playing the Borg Queen on Star Trek The Next Generation. Here they are, a kind of nomadic species. They travel from town to town because they have to feed on virgins. And they're kind of they are shape-shifting creatures. They got like lots of pretty impressive powers, really. They have one weakness, and that is cats. And the cats, if they get clawed by a cat, they get very sick from it, and an extreme cat clawing could do a lot of damage to it, as you see during the course of the film. The cats also don't like them, so they know to attack them. And the cats in the town, always in this town, they kind of come over the course of the film. There's more and more cats kind of surrounding their house, and they have to be kind of pretty scared of these cats because that's the only thing that can get them. The movie is an interesting examination of small town America. They come to this small town. Now, the film takes place, I assume, in 1992, considering the technology you see on screen, and also that's the year it was made. But a lot of it seems like an older sort of mentality going on in this small town. It even begins. There's some interesting music things going on in this film. There's a older song from the late 50s called "Sleepwalk" that's Charles's the son Sleepwalker's favorite song, and it starts off with him kind of listening to that song, which gives the film kind of an old, timeless type of feeling when you first hear that going on. And then that's followed by, you see Mae-Chin Mick's character Tanya is in a movie theater, and she's listening on a Walkman, which is 1992 technology. Listen to the shout, the twist on the Walkman, and she does this big dance number, which is a pretty awesome introduction to her character. And Mae-Chin does a really great job in that scene. She seems like she's having a lot of fun with it. And but those type of music things kind of give you this old feeling from the beginning of it, and the town kind of acts old, even though it is a 1992, which for this film it was present day time, but just it kind of does feel like an older thing. And so the mother and son move into this town, unsuspecting town, hoping to get away with being these kind of vampiric creatures. There is an opening at the beginning of the film that kind of sets up a little bit, that was shot after the fact, and it has a cameo from Mark Hamill, and it's a pretty substantial cameo because he it starts off, he's a cop, and he goes into this house, and they see all these dead cats around, and then they find like a corpse of a little girl. They've killed a little girl, and that's how they get their life force. That's how it's kind of like a vampire like situation, where they're able to suck the life force out of these virgin girls. Machen, a mixed character. Tanya apparently is a virgin, which I kind of don't believe, but the way that the town's set up a little bit, I guess it makes it so it's like an older town, and maybe, I don't know, small town America, that's what, when you're that age that she's at, it'd be very unlikely for her to be a virgin, but I guess we're just going to have to go with it in this film. But it's harder, too, for me to see her as a virgin, especially considering her playing Shelley Johnson in Twin Peaks. And I guess I associate her with that, and she definitely was not a virgin in that. So it's kind of hard to separate that. But I guess on the first watch, I kind of ignored that. I guess I can accept it enough to make the plot go forward, because they got to have those virgins. That's how they're going to feed. And that's like when you're watching the film, you see them killing other people, but you're like, why don't they feed off of them? And the answer to that is because the only thing that works for some reason is a virgin girl. And apparently the son has to suck the life force out of the girl, and somehow he must feed it to the mother later. Now, this is never shown on screen how that process completely works, but I think that's what's going on. And so the thing that I think that may turn most people off from this film involves that mother and son dynamic. I will say there is some terrific chemistry between Alice and Brian in this film. Now, they are playing mother and son, and they are also in an incestuous relationship where he, I guess, part of their whatever's going on with him, that means he has to have sex with his mom. I don't know if that's something that they choose to do, or maybe that's how he gives her the power that he has. But there's definitely that going on, and it's established fairly early. Really, after the opening sequence and the title sequence, the first time you see Brian Krause's character Charles, he goes and talks to his mom, and at first you see this. He asks her. He's already picked out Tanya from the yearbook as the person he wants to target, and he asked his mom if she's jealous, and she was like, act like she's not. She's like, should I be jealous? And then they have this kind of back and forth. Then they dance, and then he brings her upstairs to bring her into the bedroom to have sex with her, but you don't see it then. But that's a pretty early scene in the film, and I think that a lot of people were probably very taken back by that. It is a very polarizing thing to have in the film, and it kind of pushes some boundaries, and it kind of takes people kind of off guard from what to expect next in the film. Later on in the film, they go even further with that, and they have an actual sex scene between the son and the mother, and it doesn't go on for very long. It's really a kind of a, you see her, and he's on top of her, and you kind of see it's more of over her shoulder, and you see it's more her acting. By the way, Alice Krige is friggin' fantastic in this, playing the mother Mary. I think her name's Mary. He's playing the mother character, but she is really good in this. But apparently, they shot a longer sex scene between them. They had to cut it back for the ratings, because I think it's the appropriate amount. But she is on fire in this scene, and later in the film, like I say, she has a very strong presence for one thing, but she also, her acting style kind of lends towards like a Lady Macbeth sort of character, like from Macbeth, and even she really puts a lot into this character, and I really like what she does. And at the end, eventually Charles becomes incapacitated, and then the Mary character, the mother, takes over as the main antagonist and starts to go after some other people. And a lot of cops get killed in this film, and they seem to be really targeting the cops. But it gets pretty graphic with the violence, and it's some practical special effects that are a lot of fun. But there's also some early kind of computer effects where there's some morphing. You see Brian Krause's character driving a car, and his face starts morphing into this kind of cat, and then back into him. That's an early, probably the first, maybe I think it's the second morphing effect in a film like that from what I've seen. But it doesn't look horrible for being early computer animation. There's a little bit more of those type of effects, so they're kind of pushing the boundaries on some effects in here. There's some really cool set pieces in this film too that I think the scenes work really well. It focuses a lot on some cops. Now, there's one cop in particular. He's a black cop named Andy, played by Dan Martin, and he's quite hilarious in this film. He's a very likable guy, and well, I assume he's a likable guy, but I think his personality kind of shines through in this character. But he's a patrol officer, and the first time he sees Brian Krause's Charles character speeding, and he starts to chase after him, and then there's like it's pretty impressive chase scene for a while. And one other special effects that happens in the film is another sleepwalker power, as Charles is able to turn his car into a different car in a different color, and so he's able to get away. He's also able to make it. First of all, he makes it invisible, and that's how he gets away. That's right. And then he after that he changes the color of it, so somehow they can make some kind of illusions of things to that nature. But that's the first time that happens. And now the character Andy, the deputy Andy, has a cat with him. It comes with him named Clovis, which also ends up being like a pretty bad thing for the Sleepwalkers, because this cat Clovis is really like a pretty impressive cat when it comes down to it. Later on, there's a cemetery sequence that's probably one of the better sequences of the film. Now, Mei-Chin and a mixed character, Tanya and Charles, go out to the cemetery to do a photo shoot, and that's when Charles shows his true form. He tries to attack her and suck her soul out, but she's able to escape from him. But he goes completely bonkers all of a sudden. He starts like really just saying like really crazy stuff to her, and as he starts like yelling these really hilarious things at her, he's like, why don't you just think of yourself as lunch? And then he says like, I lied, it does have to hurt. And he just like starts getting like, he really shows him his true self, and he really seems at that point to be enjoying attacking her. But she gets away, and that's when Andy the cop shows back up, and unfortunately at that point he does kill Andy. He pretty brutally. He shoves I think a pencil or pen into the side of his head, and then he slams it on the ground. And then Charles is like, "Cop kebab." It almost sounds like Garbage Day from like Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. It's kind of in that line, but I think it works awesomely in Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. But it also works very well in this film, even though it's a little over the top, but it's also kind of hilarious. And but anyway, unfortunately, Andy gets killed there, but then Clovis, the cat, jumps on Charles, and he like mauls his face, and he messes him up. The cat just like messes him up bad, and that ends up like putting him in a state of dying, really. And then that's when the mother has to at the end come back and attack all the cops and all that. And by the way, her parents are played by the same actors who played the parents in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, so that's kind of an interesting bit of trivia. But let's take a look at the physical copy here. Again, this is a Scream Factory's collector's edition. This is some amazing artwork on the cover here. It was drawn by Devin Whitehouse, which you can look at Devin Whitehouse on Instagram. It's Devin Draws, I believe, but he's got an Instagram page. But this is one of his better, if not his best, drawings. You got like a turned sleepwalker. Now there's different stages of turning. There is when they start, the actual actor has some stuff on their face starts to change, and then like Brian Krause and Alice Krige here, they have the kind of mid prosthetics on the face. Eventually they turn into a whole werecat looking thing. At that point, it's played by a different actor in a suit. This is a pretty cool in-between transformation. And there's Clovis the cat, and there's another cat. Definitely says Clovis. This looks like Clovis, but it might be a different cat. And there's the car. And but yeah, I really like this. I would like to see Mei-Chin, a mixed character, on here somehow, but I guess it wasn't really in the cards. So let's take a look at the inside of this. There is a reverse cover of the original Sleepwalkers poster, which I also like pretty good as well. Here it is here. That's the original Sleepwalkers poster, which it's not bad. I do like Devin's new drawing better. There is just one disc in here, and it is a Blu-ray only. There's not a current 4K disc. This is an impressive collector's edition by Scream Factory because they were able to get interviews from the main cast. They have interviews with Mei-Chin and Mick, Brian Krause, and Alice Krige on here, which is kind of rare a lot of times nowadays anyway. So it's pretty impressive. They also have an interview with Mick Garris, the director. Now, Mick Garris also directed Critters 2 and Riding the Bullet. I think he does a very good job with this film. I think it did make money, but for some reason it didn't like catapult his career into a different level, even though I really like his direction in this film. He also was one of the writers, I think the head writer on the film Hocus Pocus, so that's all very impressive. And from his interview, he's a very likable guy. He does a very good interview here. And so this is a nice, as far as like the quality of it, I do have a previous release of the film. This is like a 2-pack of Children of the Corn and Sleepwalkers, like both here, and I think it's very similar. It may be a little brighter than the one here. It could stand to use a 4K upgrade. I think it looks pretty decent here. It doesn't look horrible, but I would like to see the 4K upgrade. Maybe see some additional quality, a little more texture to everything. Even though it might make it look maybe worse. I don't think it, like I said, I don't think it looks horrible. I wasn't when I was watching it. I thought it looked fine. And unlike Children of the Corn, Sleepwalkers never got a sequel. I'm not sure exactly why that is. I guess there wasn't as much interest, but a lot of his other films, even like The Lawnmower Man, got like some sequels to it. But Children of the Corn got a bunch of them. But some reason they never really tapped into the sequel on this, even though I really like the film. I think it's a great creature feature. Let's go ahead and rate this film. I'm going to rate it on a scale from 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I really, maybe leaning towards 4, but probably 3.5. I really like the film. I think it's underrated. It can be a little polarizing with the mother-son stuff going on, especially with the sex scenes. But Alice Krige, even though she is kind of a MILF here in a way, but even more than that, though, the character seems to need this, and she's not playing it. She plays it in a way that it really works, and the mom is very menacing, but it is also a lot of fun as well. It seems to be a very fun character to play. It's really awesome when she starts to attack the cops. Ron Perlman he plays a cop who doesn't show up to about maybe halfway through after some of the other cops get killed, and he comes in thinking he's going to take care of everything, but she ends up like biting his fingers off. That shot's awesome. She seems to really enjoy biting into his fingers. Is friggin' terrific. But this. Like I say, I'm going to give it 3.5. I'm going to give Scream Factory 4 stars. It needs a 4K trans upgrade, but based on it since the 2018 release, there wasn't a lot of 4K going on at the time there. I would have liked to have seen a new transfer, but the fact that they got these interviews on this, and I really like this cover art, I'm going to give it 4 stars. I think that's terrific. If you would do me a favor, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'm Dave Watkins. Thanks for watching.